I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and this is day 4 of round 1 of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League. We will be witnessing a Group D match between the Australian player with the screen name Megot Noskill and the Chinese player with the screen name SecretStar. As you can see, all 6 players in Group D are on the screen. The format is pretty straightforward, a round robin over the course of 6 weeks, and then whoever the 2 players that end up with the most victories will qualify for the playoffs. Siegfried here will be the favorite of the group as the highest rated player and the one that also well known, currently the reigning world championship runner-up. SecretStar is a player who has actually been around the block a couple of times. A few years ago, he played for Team China in 2021. Then in some years he played, in some years he didn't play. Now he appears to be back with a strong statement. So Chinese players from the national team, it's obviously always a very high level. Megot Noskill, a player from Australia, to his credit, has a 4th place finish at the Mind Sports Olympiad in 2021, and over the course of the qualification process for the Champions League, he defeated and eliminated none other than Otto Ikonen of Finland, who is the world record holder for the highest rated player in Board Game Arena. So should be a tight match. I would give the advantage to SecretStar simply because of the experience and the rating difference, but the Australian has shown that their screen name is very much on purpose not accurate. The match should be starting in about a minute. Let's see if both players are here. Yeah, so this table has already been created. Looks like we'll be in time for face-off. Hi, Farasi. Yeah, Group D, of course, also includes these 3 players as well. Well, we've shown Lord Terrycloth a lot. We've shown a little bit of Lord Trooper, not so much of Tarkhan of 28. Hopefully, later in the week, we'll get to see a bit of every player, or at least representatives of every country. Alright, so the game still hasn't started. Let's actually check if SecretStar here is online. Yes, they are. Yeah, you see, so they joined quite a while ago, so February 3rd, 2021. And they were already there for the 2021 edition of the World Team Carcassonne Online Championships. Also, I have quite a history with them, so we haven't played in a few years, but when I just joined Board Game Arena and still was coming to terms of how much the level has risen over the years compared to what it was before my hiatus, SecretStar was one of the players who beat me like 6 times in a row or something like this. It was just a very one-sided friendly match that we had. Learned a lot from that. Currently they're rated in their mid 500s. It's an expert level rating. Megot, of course, also was rated over 500 at some point. Now slid down a little bit. So what's up with that game? Well, both players have joined, so we know that they are online and the game is happening. We're already 1 minute past 12 UTC. And away we go. We have started. The Australian player with the red meeples and a city cap to open. The starting player advantage. SecretStar with 7 green meeples waiting to respond. 4 points for the Australian and a slight lead. Quadruple crossroads for SecretStar. We'll be looking to start a new ring road, probably over here. You could make a case for starting a straight road and trying to finish it with the crossroads, but there's not necessarily a good reason to do that. Well, I guess if you go over here, there's a slight disadvantage that you're leaving a 3-point road for your opponent, but still the advantage that you're getting from a road starting like this is the fact that you can finish it with road tiles that don't include road ends. So I think this is the less preferable of the two possible moves. Megot responds with a road of his own. Mr. Star now, let's see how aggressive they get. So they could just start a city over here, which is sort of the safer spot. It's nowhere near their road, it's a bit near their opponent's road, but they chose to start a city like this. So they really want to capitalize on both the road components and the city components of the tile. Despite this city being somewhat vulnerable, I have to agree with them simply because it's the start of the game. Blocking is not that dangerous. So you might as well take the extra point. In the meantime, Megot builds a 4-point road. I already see a potential field brewing, so there's already a completed city on it, and 4 green squares. A bit too early to actually take a meeple and put it on the field, but something to think about for the future. And look how Mr. Star here tries to score really aggressively. Instead of continuing his road, he starts another road. And this is done to clean off a road end. So the purpose of this move is to make sure that if the Australian draws a crossroad tile, he actually has nowhere to score 2 points. I really love this sort of aggression. It now immediately backfires because the side effect of that was the creation of a 6-point monastery, which is now being occupied by Megot, who is now also very happy to invade Mr. Star's city over here. And quite the advantage for the Australian already, a 7-point monastery in the center. The cities have been equalized, and 8 points on the scoreboard from these two features. And all the Chinese player has so far are these 2 roads. Still, the game's young, but you have to love this position if you're an Australian fan. By the way, do let me know if you are an Australian fan. I don't really get a lot of viewers from that part of the world, like Australia, New Zealand, Fiji. Would be nice to know if you're there. Hi, Tamrak. Great tile for Megot. 4 points for the city, 1 for the monastery. Also, the monastery is closer to completion. In the meantime, SecretStar managed to complete his 6-point road, get on the scoreboard, and now is looking to reclaim the city, hoping to draw the exact tile that Megot just drew, going over here and over here. Of course, it's not going to happen as Red completes the city invasion at the same time shouldering away Green's city over here. Green finishes his road, as a side effect completes Megot's monastery as well. 12 points advantage on the scoreboard for the player with the red meeples. Not probably looking to continue his road. It's just simply enjoy your 12-point lead. You don't need to do anything special. That's monastery certainly is a nice accomplishment to look back on. But if you're a Chinese fan, don't worry too much. There's still multiple monastery spots available over here. So with a good draw, like a road monastery, for example, you could go over here for 5 points. You could take a road over here for 3 extra points. You could do all kind of things. Megot continues a road, pointing it up, and Mr. Star just tries to break it down a little bit, and actually this works. So look at this. So now Red cannot go over here and make the standard move of completing his road and starting a new city. Instead, he needs to make a subpar move, which probably would involve just going here and taking 2 points, dropping a city cap somewhere in the center. This would also eliminate one of the 2 monastery spots
For example, if we go here and drop it, oh yeah, that's actually, oh, that's even better move. Yeah, that's a way better move. Okay, but this is a big mistake. I'm even wondering if this is a misclick. So the placement is great. So, but I assumed that the purpose of this move was simply to score 2 points for the road. Instead, red drops a 6-point farmer, and I'm wondering whether that was on purpose or not, because if you're sacrificing 2 points to drop a farmer for 6 points, well, you're essentially sacrificing a whole meeple for a 4-point difference, which is really not a great investment for a meeple. And this field doesn't have a lot of growth potential, so I can see the idea of Megot kind of trying to maybe build up a 12-point field or something, assuming that Mr. Star finishes his city here and Red finishes his city here. But with this configuration, an outcome which is super likely is that Red just draws some sort of, or Green just draws some sort of big tile, like the triple or quadruple tile, and simply connect these two cities. These guys will be tied together as a ruin, and this meeple will be trapped forever here for like 6 points, which in reality is only 4 points. But the reason why I like this move at first, because it actually would be the best way to meeple a 2-point road, because they wouldn't give a city cap back to his opponent. And also, of course, there were some threats of Green going over here and taking over the city entirely with a sequence of triple and quadruple city tiles. But in the meantime, I really like this move from Mr. Star strategically. I just don't like the placement geometrically. I will talk about that a little bit later. So he realizes that this field doesn't have a lot of potential, and so he instead starts his own field in response with a lot more potential. Even though the farm at the top is only 3 points, it now just became 6, and there's so many green squares to build up the city further. Megot, of course, successfully cleans off one of those city caps. I'm gonna take 8 points. But now, this geometry here gives some real chances for the Chinese player back into the game. So here's how we could play this. You see, this meeple here is trapped with 6 points, which means that on this side of the board, Mr. Star is going to have a meeple majority. And with a meeple majority and a sufficient number of city caps drawn, he can develop a sizable field of like 24 points or something like this. And Megot will be hard-pressed to try and fight for it because he has a meeple minority. So then he'll probably need to resort to something like this. So you see he's continuing his own city, but the idea of this move is also a threat of drawing 2 curved tiles, building a 4-point road, and like that, connecting the red farmer through the outside. So let's see if that's something that he chooses to do. I probably might not even do that, maybe just even go over here. Just simply make sure that this city is separated from our city. And then we can threaten the completion of our city as red and score 10 points. And also add a 3rd city into our field, making the investment of our meeple sort of kind of justifiable. This also has the unpleasant consequences for the Chinese fans in the sense that it annoys the city quite a lot. It will actually be pretty difficult for SecretStar to get his meeple back, because first of all he needs to wait for a tile that fits here, but in turn this tile will create another blocking square, which could then be used by red to restrict this square over here significantly. Oh, what a lovely move here by Megot, building a teeny field of his own, but with a 12-point lead, this is the kind of stuff that you want to be doing. So this field over here is completely closed off, but it already has 6 points on it, and it could turn into a 12-point field easily. So it will turn into a 9-point field if SecretStar successfully completes this city, but if they don't, then this means that both of these meeples will be trapped, and that's sort of an even exchange. Moreover, there's a 3rd city cap available in his field, which Megot will now immediately take advantage of. So I'm a bit puzzled why the thinking here. Just going over here, starting a new city seems like such a no-brainer. And this farmer will have his nice 9-point field here. And with that, red's position looks just great. Yeah, so this move also could have been prevented. As Mr. Star, I think it was best not to place this tile over here, but rather to place it over here, not allowing Megot to clean off the city cap too easily. So it could cost the Chinese player really dearly. Their main field is still 12 points, but doesn't seem to be quite enough to compensate for the scoreboard lead. He now gets a monastery, which is super important for them. The reason why it's so important is because that's a way to score points and get a meeple back. Now also another important tile for Mr. Star here, equalizing Megot City before it yields 8 points for the Australian scoreboard. Megot now with a scoring tile. Some great options here. Yeah, these 3 points here look best. They also make this city sort of kind of vulnerable. So now Mr. Star will need to defend. But he gets a great tile to do that. Yeah, that's a fantastic tile, actually. We might even consider dropping a farmer, but given the fact that we only have 2 meeples, that looks like a bit too much. So the reason why it's such a strong move, not only does it give an extra point to the city, but it also almost perfectly protects the square. Now the only tile that can be placed over here to block the square is a starting tile, and 2 out of the 4 starting tiles are already out, so there are only 2 starting tiles remaining, which means that red simply needs to draw a city cap, green needs to draw a city cap before red draws a starting tile to block. And 1, 2, 3, so there are 2 vanilla city caps that go here, and 1 splitter, so 3 options to finish the city, as well as some unlikely sequences like this and like this, you know, with a bunch of Doritos and triple cities. We're running short on Doritos, actually. The tile that the Australian just drew is a bit short in stock, because 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the Doritos have gone out. So in some cases, a situation can arise where Megot, if they were to draw the fifth Dorito, can actually use it for a blocking move, going over here and making sure that SecretStar cannot draw a Dorito for this square because all the Doritos are gone. In the meantime, what SecretStar does draw is a monastery tile, and he's not even afraid to use their last meeple on it. I probably have to agree with that, but Mr. Megot could create some trouble for this monastery potentially. So green has sources to get a meeple back with a Dorito tile over here, maybe, or with a city cap over here. But the downside of this move is, whilst we build up this monastery, we're likely to draw quite a few tiles, like this one, for example, which forces to sacrifice some important value. So, for example, with this tile now, Mr. Star cannot score 4 points for a road. He probably now needs to go here. That would be the priority, to not allow Megot drawing a splitter. Going here would be a bad idea, because this would open a square for reinvasion, and that's why the Chinese player recognizes this sort of stuff pretty easily. Interesting tile from Megot, so of course some lovely options here with the road monastery. I'm gonna go either over here for 5 points and try to build up a monastery cluster that looks reasonably strong, or going over here, taking 4 points for the road, and also renewing the idea of unifying these 2 fields. Because if he goes over here and then draws another road monastery and goes over here, then suddenly this meeple will sneak all the way through here. It's a question whether it's worth doing with 19 points ahead on the scoreboard, and if I'm red, I'm liking my position so much that I probably want to keep the field separate, despite the fact that my opponent has the bigger field. simply to avoid there being high variance features in the position. High Glavier, Megot with a Dorito tile, a tile which Mr. Star would have loved. Also interesting to note that after the unification of the city, it's a very, very sneaky move here. There are some real options. Well, there's one real option that could happen. Now it's, of course, prevented by Megot with this move. But if the Australian player failed to place a tile here, then Mr. Star could get a triple city over here and a Dorito like this, and actually use this 4-point meeple to eat up all these ruin points and get himself a 2-to-1 meeple majority on what would be a 12, 13, 14-point ruin. Certainly good investment for a meeple. Red is now trying to complete their monastery, but I think they're doing it wrong. If you ask me, the best way to go about this was actually to place a curve a bit to the left, given the fact there's such a huge number of straight line tiles available. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So 5 straight lines available. So now if you were to place a curve over here as green, then you're threatening to draw a very, very easy monastery completion tile. But now, green doesn't have a good use for straight lines whatsoever. And normally this configuration is great because it sets up the completion of a monastery with another monastery. But at the time of this move, there was only one monastery remaining anyway. There are still 2 vanilla city caps that could fit into this square, but Mr. Star needs the vanilla city caps over here. In some scenarios, he might even need both of these city caps around this area. I'll talk about this later. So I wonder whether that was a misclick or simply a case of making what normally would be a standard move, but failing to adjust to the specific run-outs of tiles. Because normally this stuff is great when there are a lot of monastery in the deck, but when there are not a lot of monasteries in the deck, it isn't great. So chances are that actually these 2 meeples are never going to see the lights of day again. Megot with a very interesting move. I think they're attempting to start a new monastery but also block the square. I think it's just really unnecessary. Probably the best move that they could have done is just taking 3 points over here or 4 points over here. As of course the idea of this move is to control the game a little bit more. Is, you know, if we get any sort of road tile, we can go over here and then we can block the square completely, but green is preventing us from doing so. So this is a nice defensive move. It's restricting this square, which now doesn't allow Megot to place a curve that would block these 2 monasteries. So now that if I'm SecretStar, if I do get a city cap, then I'm probably putting it over here first and then thinking about the city later. Moreover, if we get a city cap and put it over here, it would actually restrict Red's monastery as well. Red now with a road Dorito tile, not much stuff to do. Probably you might want to go over here, just simply preventing this city from being completed, and given the fact that we're still quite a lot ahead on the scoreboard and that green still quite doesn't have enough compensation for it, we just want to make moves that dry up the game. So for example, if this city were to be completed, then this farmer would get 3 points, this green farmer would get 3 points, so it would be a wash. But the difference would be that we would be tied in meeples, not 1-1, but 2-2, and there's more stuff that can happen in the game of 2 meeples per side. But instead, Red does not want to make prophylaxis. He decides to play a move for his own, which sort of makes sense, adding a point to his monastery and making it much easier to be completed. Well, I guess that's a bit of a stretch. There's actually only 1 tile remaining that fits into this square, and this 1 tile happens to be the shielded triple city. So if Red wants to finish their monastery, which they might anyway, they will be adding 3 points to green city over here. And I think that even after this, green might have some chances for completing their city, because there's still... Nope. 1, 2, 3. So all the tiles that fit into that square have gone out. So this move would be relatively safe. Of course, unfortunate that it would require a bit of a point sacrifice, but 3 points is certainly a cheap price to pay to get a whole meeple back. Road tile for Mr. Star here. Difficult to recommend something when you only have one meeple. My assumption initially would be probably going over here, trying to block this square, so keep blocking this square, making sure that Reds cannot draw a tile easily that fits there and blocks our monasteries. And a similar move is made by Mr. Star, also meepling a 4-point road, given that there's still 4 crossroads remaining and 1 horse tile remaining, so 5 road end tiles, which could easily give a meeple back to green. And nothing much that red can do about this. Of course, we could go here, but this wouldn't be much of a restriction. In fact, this would be helping Mr. Star's road. So probably I'm thinking about a move like this that adds a point to red and also protects this square, which we can later use to block these monasteries. So again, just to run this through. So this move adds a monastery point and it restricts this square. This square, in turn, could be used by green to restrict this square. And this square could be used by red to block this square. So this move would be blocking the square for blocking the blocking square. But very often in these blocking situations, this is the kind of stuff that you want. Instead, red goes for a different move, and it's pretty interesting. Well, it's a rather poor move because it blocks the square completely. So now the idea of blocking will no longer be available. And well, actually, I'm not sure if it's such a poor move. Maybe I'm a bit overreacting. But because there are no curves remaining, Reds cannot fit anything in the square at all. And before this move, at the very least, there were things such as the triple crossroads, for example, that could have gone there and blocked the square. But instead, Red decides that for them, the field is more important. They will now probably go over here. An extremely annoying move. Because they connect to the field and they also don't allow Mr. Star to get the road back. In fact, this road now is severely restricted. Only one tile that fits into this square, the field crossroads. So this move actually ends up working quite well for red, at least for now. At least the field invasion is being completed. But the downside of this move will be evident soon enough, as the Chinese player probably going to draw a city cap soon to get his 2 monastery meeples back. Megot Noskill now with an amazing tile. Let's see if you can see the move where it can be used. Of course, he's going to go over here and block Mr. Star's city. But you know, because the city has been forgotten for such a long time, like, you might not even have it in your peripheral vision. But he does remember about it just as Mr. Star had a tile that would free up his meeple. So this has to be extremely disappointing if you're a Chinese fan. Of course, having your meeples blocked, it was a possibility. But to have it happen a split second before you had a chance to free that meeple up, it has to sting. A splitter tile for the Chinese player has some decisions to make. He's quite a bit behind, but He could go over here, for example, and try and block the square, not allowing Megot to get an easy meeple back with the shielded triple city tile move that I was talking about. And then red could, or green rather, could get a city cap here, or a crossroads here, and then use this tile for good. Megot can probably get himself a point, or he actually might go ahead and go ahead and place a meeple here to simply finish a shared city, because as red, you're now in a position where you actually have no way to get a meeple back, because this is blocked, farmers are obviously blocked by definition, and then from your perspective, you know that green has 2 ways to get a meeple back. So red does in fact go for liberating the meeple for both sides, and it has a pleasant side effect of adding another city into his farm, so this 9-point farmer will work like a charm. Mr. Megot now could in theory just go here and meeple this 8-point road. With 5 tiles remaining, sounds like a good investment. Like, there's really not that much extra that we can do. And there's even a chance to get a meeple back because there's still 1 city cap with the crossroads. So as Megot, you probably gotta do it. All the more reasons to do it because your opponent needs a bunch of tiles to get his meeples back, such as the regular crossroads and the regular city cap. And the property of these tiles is the fact that they're not this tile. So even though green immediately draws the tile that Megot needed to get a meeple back, this was still worth the meeple investment. And because now the Australian draws one of the 2 city caps that fit into the square. Probably going to go here to just add a point to his monastery. Of course, before doing that, needs to double check if that doesn't open any field connection platforms by accident. But even if it does, the 11-point scoreboard lead, and the 8-point road, and the extra monastery, and the 9-point field should do the job for the Australian. A straight line for Mr. Star probably will be looking for some ways to invade one of the fields. I'm not sure if that's actually possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sadly, no more roads remaining. But if there were a road remaining, we could have gone over here and invaded through here. Yeah, Mr. Star realizes that it's actually no longer possible. Simply adds a monastery point to himself. And the final tile by the Chinese player will be drawn and placed over here for a 5-point city. That's just the best that he can do. Yeah, so there was a tiny chance of invasion. If SecretStar were to draw this tile before the straight line, he could have placed it over here with a farmer and connected to the field like this, or alternatively placed it over here with a farmer like this and then connected through this straight road to a 9-point farm at the bottom. I doubt if either would have been enough. Well, maybe the top field would have been enough. We're going to see the score difference in just a second. As all of these monasteries are added to red, and red will have 18 extra field points. This guy here and this guy here. What a high-scoring game. 150 points against 126, so 25-point difference. Imagine scoring at 126 points in a Carcassonne game and still losing. That does not happen every day. The average score at the top level, actually, I don't know, but intuitively it feels like something around 100. And this is like at the very top level. At your sort of regular expert level, the average score tends to be a little bit lower. Yeah, and then we know that even if with the best sequence of tiles, if Mr. Star were to go over here, he could have only got himself like 15 extra points compared to what he got in the game. So this would of course involve invading here, but then sacrificing a couple of points that he got for his last two features. So yeah, so even this 18-point field in the center would not have helped. Yeah, very well played here from the Australian player. It includes some unorthodox decisions, such as this monastery over here, but end up working out really well. Nice spot of this long road. And this farmer was actually really neat. And the Chinese player just simply didn't find a good countermeasure against it. So the great stuff with these small farmers when you're ahead on the scoreboard is the fact that your opponent just does not have a way to get a lot of points. Because sure, they could invade this field, then they get 9 points per meeple. And then they could invade this field with a second meeple, and they could get another 9 points per meeple. But then with the third meeple, there's just nowhere to go, because if you get more meeples on the same field, you don't get any more points. So this position was relatively dry. There was just no way to score more than 9 points per meeple, and the geometry was such that the Chinese player didn't even manage to do that. So let's see if the higher rated player ends up responding with something. In the second game, a reminder to y'all that it is best of 3 format. All the games in the group stage are best of 3 format. Then in the playoffs, it's best of 5. And the first point, the first big point in the match goes to the Australian. Right, the second game has been created. Look at this lovely Chinese meeple, part of the design of the Chinese national team. Australia doesn't have a national team yet. We do hope that it does change in the near future. However, I'm not really aware of many Australian players. Oh, so SecretStar is asking for a 5-minute break, but that was already 5 minutes ago, so they must be ready to play soon enough. I think I've seen like 3 Australian players rated 500 and up. Somebody rated even over 600. So in theory, you could make a team of 8 people, but it would require considerable effort. So in case you are a resident of Australia or have Australian citizenship and you like Carcassonne, you don't have to be an expert necessarily. You can think about participating in these international tournaments, particularly in the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship that's coming in the spring. Just gotta find a few like-minded people, and that's how you get this thing going. So the second game has not started yet. We know that it has been created. You can see that they're playing a bunch of other games as well. So we're just going to keep refreshing. Actually, let me just get distracted a little bit. There's so many matches going on. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. So for example, this is the schedule of the matches. The next stream, this one I won't be able to stream, this one either, so feel free to just watch them on Board Game Arena. So today it's going to be the last match, and then the next match I will actually be able to stream is a Rabbit Rain, the highest rated player in the entire field, against Marco Rivas of Mexico with the screen in Manarori, who has a lot of in-person achievements, both Mexico National Championships and high finishes at the World Championship in person as well. But what I want y'all to do is, if you just look through this list and let me know which of these matchups are your favorites, which ones you would really like to see, because I won't be able to stream all of them, but I will be able to stream a lot of them, and with your input I can certainly prioritize better. Ooh, this is interesting. Thank you, Sergey. Actually, I didn't know that Australia played in the Asian Cup of 2024. So they actually do have enough players. I have to admit, I wasn't following the Asian Cup quite closely because it happened in the summer, and then in the summer was traveling a little bit. Or was it summer and autumn, but something like this. That was also when I was taking a bit of a unplanned hiatus from my channel. Well, good to know that the game is growing in all but one continent for now. We just need a team from Africa. Okay, so the players are agreeing on starting a second game. Temrak, yes, duly noted. Glovier against someone you know should be super interesting. Glovier, that's Guilherme Neves of Portugal, the reigning Mind Sports Olympiad gold medalist. I'm talking about the in-person event. And Vladimir Kovalev, someone you know, the reigning and the only ever champion of the Carcassonne Champions League. So the players apparently having some issues with setting up the board. This should be solved in a few seconds, and it is indeed the case. The game is about to start. If the Australian wins, the match is over. If not, we're headed for the decider. And if you are trailing behind 0-1, then this is the exact kind of tile that you want to be starting your game with. Red draws the best starting tile in Carcassonne and has the starting player advantage. It starts what's going to be an 8-point city. Megot trying to respond on the right, but immediately his efforts to invade will be rendered moot as 8 points are added to the red player's scoreboard, and this city is starting to be slightly obstructed. A 2-point road start from Megot, and look at this back-to-back shielded tile for SecretStar. Of course, now it's not as profitable as still 2 city caps need to be drawn for the city to be completed, but it's quite a safe city placement. So most of the time, the city actually does get completed, and it's a fantastic tile for Red again. Not only does he get to continue his city here, but he also gets to start a new one in a safe place. But a great tile for Megot as he is able to invade and equalize the city. The downside, of course, is that he would have loved to use the city tile to finish his own city, but now he can't. And maybe, just maybe, there are some blocking chances for Red. So this seems like the strongest move, scoring 2 points for road and at the same time setting up a blocking sequence. All of this is with tempo. So the tile that you want to draw, straight line, curve, straight line, curve. And this is the ideal pattern. Then you end up with a huge long road and with this square getting blocked. That, of course, is a big if, but Mr. Star here now draws one of the city caps that can be used to block this square. He can now go over here, start a new city, and make sure that only 2 tiles that fit there. This seems like the move to play. But in the meantime, no. Well, so this is this is hilarious. Red now makes a clear mistake, but it ends up paying off immediately. Like, you have to be so frustrated at this kind of stuff if you're if you're green. So red, I mean, the move that I expected was turning this city cap upwards, starting a new city, so that red can benefit from the city cap in itself. Instead, red turned the city cap downwards, technically giving himself fewer blocking options, because there's still 3 tiles that fits into this square, as opposed to 2 with the opposite placement. But it just so happens that green would have had one of the 2 starting tiles to finish his city, and no, he doesn't. Still, green is quite likely to finish the city. Even though red sets up the block, green will now get to defense. And I wonder why this move hasn't made in a second. Yeah, so that's why this move is... well, there are multiple reasons why this move is unfortunate. First of all, you're sacrificing 2 points. You're making your opponent more likely to finish the city. You're not taking advantage of the city cap yourself. And red quite predictably... ends up losing some equity in the situation over here. So a big sigh of relief for Australian fans, but certainly has to be super frustrating when you have the tile, which you know normally goes over here, and your opponent just with some sort of sixth sense makes it so that you can't place it over here, even though in the long term this will work out perfectly for green. But so far, things are working out perfectly for red, as he's still 12 points ahead on the scoreboard, starting a 6-point monastery as well in the best possible spot. But look at this. Green is very close to invading the city and completely taking it over. That's why red is trying to set up a re-invasion platform or a blocking platform, because if green is successfully drawing one of the 10 Doritos remaining, rather, then the city will be worth 16 or even 18 points for green. That will certainly put green back into the game and then some, especially given that they have a 12-point city waiting to happen over here. So they now finished the 5-point row. They finally get themselves on the scoreboard. This city over here is pretty safe, so this blocking platform is not that much a concern. Mr. Star now gets a tile that he needs to reinvade the city, so that's a bit unfortunate for Mr. Megot, but still was totally worth the effort. Now, in fact, it is green who will need to draw a triple city tile to fit here to make sure that this 1-point meeple is equalized with this 3-point meeple, and 2 out of these tiles are needed over here. The reason why it's a 12-point city waiting to happen, it's because I'm counting in the 2 road points that go over here upon the completion of the city. It will be 10 points for the city, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 because of the shield, because 2 out of the 3 tiles, 2 out of the 3 horse tiles, the triple city with the road tiles, have a shield on them. So that's 10 points for a city, 2 points for a road. So just like when assessing the position, of course, you need to look not only at the points of the scoreboard, but also on the potential points that will easily be gained by your opponent. And by both metrics, actually, red is doing great, because red has a 4-point road, red has these lovely monasteries stacked on top of each other, Megot's trying to build some cities. Unlikely to be enough for the time being, as Mr. Star gets a curvy tile, which can be used over here to not only continue his monasteries, but to also create a platform for severely restricting this meeple over here. And nothing much that Mr. Megot can do about this, but a straight line over here will certainly be an annoying move against this square. We can start restricting it, or maybe even possibly blocking it with a lucky sequence of tiles. No stronger move available for the Australian player. Starting a 2-point road is just really not strong enough. So I expect us to see this restriction of the monastery square in just a few seconds. Hi, Helge. Instead, green makes a mistake because that is simply a move that doesn't do anything. Well, I guess it sort of kind of blocks the square, but it really doesn't. And even if you are to block the square, well, first of all, you don't have to because this square is already blocked. All of the 3 daggers that would have fit here, they're already drawn. And second, it's not important to block this anyway because the city is shared potentially. Yeah, so the main reason why this move is such a big mistake is because it just doesn't do anything. And like with any tile, with even a useless tile seemingly, there's always a way to at least marginally improve your position. Maybe Megot didn't like this idea because there were still many curves that fit here, and now we see the part of that plan that he wants to restrict the square a bit more. But it's actually not really restricting because it's still 3 monasteries that fit into the square, still 1 vanilla city cap. SecretStar will be getting his meeples back. It's actually impossible to block, it's only possible to sort of kind of restrict. But a great tile for Megot now, as he continues his city, gets out of harm's way and starts a 4-point road in the process. Mr. Star continues his city at the bottom. Another great tile from Megot. He's looking to either complete his road or complete his city, or continue his city rather. Completing his road would be a mistake because it would just open up an easy blocking platform against this poor little guy. Because you see, this square is actually more sensitive than it may seem. Because again, all the 3 dagger tiles have gone out, and that's why the Australian player recognizes it and continues his city at the top. So in all likelihood, this meeple and this city meeple will make it back safely. Just as the meeple from SecretStar City at the bottom, and an 8-point addition to the Chinese scoreboard is certainly not something that our Australian fans like to be seeing. The city at the bottom is being connected, so 2 meeples per side. It's a block city, so it's all essentially a wash. This ruin will end up being non-consequential. Now here, Mr. Star, with a bit of a cautious move, and I would say unnecessary cautious move of simply completing his road and getting a meeple back. There was a stronger move available. Scoring 2 points for this road was better, with the idea of then getting a curve and a straight line, and then completing his road without using a road end. So that's being a bit inefficient, but given the fact that he has the lead, maybe he just doesn't want extra variance in this game. And he does happen to draw the tile that gives him the road points anyway, as Megot completes a 4-point road of his own and gets his meeple back. And also what this move does, it draws one of the tiles available for the Australian, leaving only 1 tile in the deck available for him to complete this city, and that available tile also happens to be without a shield. So we're going to see a 10-point city instead of a 12-point city for the Australian, even if we're going to see that city in the first place. Megot's trying to get some points adding to his city, but the Chinese player trying to prevent this, but it doesn't work, as a barbed wire is drawn by the Australian. So not only a 12-point city, but also a 2-point road are added to the green player's points collection. Both players with 3 meeples per side. The game is now getting a bit closer. So SecretStar has an extra monastery, which is a lot, but a 10-point city waiting to happen for Megot. This will also give him a meeple back, and some chances for sure for the Australian player here. All he really needs to do is just draw this tile soon enough, and then use his meeple majority to meeple some fields, and maybe draw the monasteries that fit into this square. Red probably could just start a 4-point road. Still plenty of crossroad tiles to make a 5-point road. Instead, he chooses to build up his monastery at the same time starting a 6-point field. Megot can either take the 4-point road for himself, or he can actually go over here, adding himself monastery's point, and then trying to set up some sort of blocking or restriction against this square, leaving red with 2 monastery meeples trapped, as opposed to just 1 monastery meeple for green. And even if this idea doesn't work, well, you've gotten yourself a monastery point, so it certainly couldn't be bad. So it's probably between these two moves if I'm Australian, and it's a tough pick between the two. I probably prefer this just because of how dangerous this monastery spot is. There are also some scenarios where actually we get to benefit from it. So imagine this. Let's say we get a curve here. Our opponent gets a straight line and they choose to protect the square, leaving two regular monasteries that fit there. Then green gets the monastery, and actually green can place the monastery over here simply for the sake of getting those points. And Megot opts for the creation of the blocking platform. SecretStar cannot respond other than taking 2 points for a road. And will we see a blocking move now? That's a great question. I mean, it seems to be a bit of too good a tile to be using like this. Probably what we want to do, actually, I think what we probably want to do is maybe just go over here and drop a farmer. It looks weird, but it's actually a stronger move than one might think. Going here is an option, just simply gambling for the 50-50 that we are going to get the road monastery. And then, of course, we don't place it over here. Or another way to gamble is actually going over here with the city cap facing down and simply hoping that we draw the last vanilla city cap. I'm a bit more inclined to leave this for later, just because I don't like to be dropping city caps in our opponent's field, and especially when I'm behind, I really want to be efficient with my tiles. So the idea behind this move and dropping a farmer is this. First of all, we are taking a 3-point field, and then we leave a city cap inside it, so then we can draw another city cap, get 3 points for the field extra, and 4 points for the city. That's 7. Then we can finish our city and get this extra road, and this will grow the field to 9 points. Green did sort of kind of something similar, just taking a 6-point field straight up, but this also had another sneaky idea. This was actually setting up a city invasion through the last remaining cow tile. So had Mr. Star not blocked the square, Megot could have drawn something like a Dorito with a road, and then this tile, and then taking over this ruin points. And so instead, Megot's going to end up with a 6-point farm over here. Really does not have a lot of potential. That's why I preferred the farmer over here in the first place. It won't end up making a big difference. At least green drew the tile that fit here soon enough. Now a great tile for green as he's the first to get a monastery, but the question is, do we go over here? I don't think that you do. I think it's not something that you can afford, because I need to remind you that this square is already blocked. All of the 3 daggers that fit here have been used out. So yeah, wait, that's actually really not a good decision at all by Megot. So first of all, it is... Let me just count this up. So it's a 7-point move for the price of 2 meeples. He's trapping a meeple of his own, and he's also giving SecretStar a meeple back. So I don't think it's something that we can be affording too easily at this score. And I know the idea here. I know that we want to be placing a tile here before our opponent draws a monastery himself. But maybe we just have to draw that. We just have to hope that we draw the 2 remaining other monasteries. So for example, a move over here seems a bit stronger to me. Then we can even threaten to draw another road monastery and place it over here. Our opponent probably has to spend considerable effort trying to block, but certainly this square was so dangerous that I can't really blame the Australian player for trying to take this out. And now a great move from the Chinese player, starting a 6-point city, and one that can actually still be completed. There's still 2 Doritos tiles that fit into the square. They're both splitters available for building up on the top. And this city will be extremely annoying to block. Straight line from Megot. Not an exciting tile when you're 10 points behind on the scoreboard. The question is, do we go here and drop another farmer? I don't think so, just because there's so many 6-point farms available. Probably the move that you might want to play is something like this, just to give your field some extra squares. And this is exactly what he does. So you see, so now a lot of credit goes to the Australian player because he finds a move that marginally improves his position with a tile that seems almost completely useless. These small things really add up towards the end of the game. So the reason why this move is important is because there's still 1 dagger tile remaining. 1 tile like this, right? Then this tile could be used to drop a city cap into the farm like this, and then with another city cap he could take these extra points, and then with the curve he could go over here and expand this field in such a way that brings this city cap into this field as well. In a position with not a lot of scoring opportunities, it's that kind of stuff that you have to cling on to. You know, I see there's a conversation in the chat going on whether it's the play with the screen name Lord Terrycloth is an actual lord. So it turns out it is just in the screen name. But do you know there's these companies that sell lord titles very easily? Because I think in order to be, like, the definition of a lord is if you learn land, if you own land. So you can buy like 1 square meter of land in Scotland and then you get yourself a title like Lord of something. I know there have been like some ethics issues with these companies. I'm not advocating for anything, but I just know that this opportunity exists, and it's an opportunity that is unique to the United Kingdom and Ireland, I believe, or maybe just the United Kingdom. Well, anyway, the only titles that matter in our world are the title of Expert and Master, which are the title that you can get as a Carcassonne player. And of course, the title of the World Champion and Carcassonne Champions League winner, Mind Sports Olympiad gold medalist, stuff like this. These are some real titles. Earls, Dukes, Lords, that's just child's play. Alright, so Megot's really struggling to find a useful tile. SecretStar draws a monastery, use it to get a 6-point field, and a threat to expand this field for 9 points. City cap for Megot, and look at this now. Because of this move by SecretStar, what a great find from a Chinese player a couple of minutes ago. Because of this move from the Chinese player, Megot cannot use this city cap to drop into his field. That's real tragic if you are the Australian here. And excellent field restriction by the Chinese player earlier, because of course if this tile were turned like this, which was a possibility for Megot because he did get a curve, then he would have had a green square for himself to work with, but now he doesn't. Well, actually, now that I think about this, with this move, Megot should have gone over here and given himself this green square, and this will end up costing him. Yeah, I don't really see many ideas other than just starting a new point, a new city like this. But Mr. Star here will be threatening the completion of this city, just going over here. Like this is also fine. Less dangerous. I mean, less threatening rather, but it's also fine. Yeah, so Megot does get his city, but the difference is that it is not on his field, so this will cost him 3 points. Mr. Star with a Dorito tile, bringing his city closer to the completion, but now a great tile from Megot as he can use it to invade. Given that the city is worth already 9 points, certainly seems worthy the investment of a meeple. And also, when it comes to the splitter tile, he still can't use it in his own field anyway. So this is how damaging this move was, and this is how important it was to actually give yourself some green squares, or you know, or pick a different farm to be dropping your meeple in the first place. Megot with the splitter decides to invade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it looks like a mistake, because you clearly want to be invading from the other side. The problem with this move is that the invasion can now be easily blocked. Okay, easily it's a bit of a stretch, but it can be blocked. If SecretStar is to draw the last remaining regular Dorito tile, he can go over here and make sure that nothing can fit into that square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You see, all the 8 big tiles have gone out. So if you place a tile over here, there's nothing remaining here to complete this connection. So it is possible that the Australian player might have miscounted, in which case this move would actually make some sense, because imagine if there were a triple city tile remaining. Then they would still have a chance to get a divider, meeple it, and then try to get the last triple city tile to not equalize but overrun the city with 2 versus 1 majority. This would have been a nice pattern, but given the fact that such a tile is not available, this won't work. Yeah, and also it's not a great situation because a splitter tile also can be used here to block, but not anymore, as Mr. Megot gets the Dorito tile before his opponents can separate him. And now green will be capitalizing on all of these city building moves, but it shouldn't be such a big deal for the Chinese player as he's simply ahead on the scoreboard, 8 points. And what are we having? So green has an extra monastery, but red has an extra 9-point field, which is outscoring his monastery. So currently, green is at -9. No way. There's just no coming back from that at all, like regardless of what green does, simply because green does not have enough meeples to score. Red covers up the field invasion squares, not that it really mattered. The best that Mr. Megot can do is go here and hope for an invasion if there's a tile remaining to invade, and yes, there is in fact. There is a splitter tile available, but a splitter tile can also be used as a field tile, so that's probably the best that green can do. But in that case, all red needs to do is ignore that threat and just score 1 point anywhere on the board with his last meeple. I'm sure it's something that he can easily do. But instead, the Australian just throws in the towel, makes a non-consequential move, just dumping the tile, and Mr. Star will be scoring quick points here, 3 for the road, which is his highest scoring move. Just needs to make sure not to leave a city cap in his opponent's field. Not that it matters actually, because there isn't a city plus road city cap remaining in the deck anyway. Oh, there is. Okay, never mind. I should have thought about that. Yeah, the move that I suggested actually would not ended up working. because that field invasion that I was suggesting was going to be easily blocked. Not that you have to block anyway, and SecretStar here drew the last splitter tile as well. So nice way to control the game pretty much from start to finish. Of course, started with a bit of a lucky break by getting all those quick points and getting the first monastery, and then just holding on to the lead, not allowing any big features to be created, not allowing any big fields to be created, creating a threat on the right, trying to distract Green's meeples, and then just hanging on. A 3-point field at the top or anywhere else is what we're going to see. And now the points will be counted. Should be around a 10-point advantage for the Chinese player, or 11, I believe. Yep, 11 points is the difference. 101 against 90, and SecretStar manages to equalize the match score, so we're headed for a decider. And the game has been created, but not started yet. So this probably gives me time to refill the stock of hot beverages. This is also what I would recommend to y'all. Stay hydrated. Alright, so let's see if the game has started, and it appears to be the case. A couple of tiles have been placed, so Megot with the starting player advantage and some quick 6 points from this city cap and this 2-point road over here. A bit surprised that Mr. Star here just chose not to meeple the city. Maybe just trying to keep it on the safe side. Yeah, Megot's really doing well with his couple of monasteries, and it looks like we're not headed for a particular close game. Wait, for a particularly close game. That's not what we're headed for. We could be headed for a closed game, as in a closed position with lots of blocked meeples, as of course Mr. Star is not going to go over here and try to block 3 meeples of red, 2 monastery meeples and 1 road meeple. But if these meeples get blocked, as an Australian fan, you should not be worried. Red still has the advantage. 6 points on the scoreboard and like 16 extra. That's enough for a price of 2 meeples. And there's still 3 tiles that fit into this square anyway. So probably the best thing that Megot can do is just start like a 2-point road. Like, you have 4 meeples. Like, what's the point of that move? It just doesn't do anything. That's of course quite disappointing to see. But now the Chinese player continues the onslaught. I guess it seems that he now must be feeling that he actually has some real good chances in this game. Because then if this square is blocked, he would be blocking not 2 but 3 meeples of red. Because, well, red's road would also be blocked, and green's road could be separated by one of the 4 remaining crossroads. The Chinese player is on the board with 3 road points. Megot now gets a scoring tile. Had he placed the road... Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, dear. Yeah, I think it's an extremely ambitious move. So this move is sort of predicated on the idea that red thinks he's somehow going to get all these 3 meeples out. No, he won't. In fact, green will be the slight favorite to block the square. Actually, no, I'm not sure. Green won't be a favorite, but green has a really high chance of blocking the square. And so what this move does, it liberates the meeple of green before the fate of these 2 meeples has been decided. And then immediately Mr. Star is now trying to play against the meeple minority of Megot, not allowing himself an easy city development or completion. Doesn't get a good blocking tile just yet, or maybe he does. How about we just go over here and drop a farmer? That's a really strong move if you ask me. Chooses not to do it just yet. Megot with a city tile. I would be super tempted to just go over here, take the 6-point ruin, and then have some chances of actually creating the threat of completion. So the idea of this move is not just to take this ruin, but also to force our opponent to spend some blocking efforts on the city, which would give us more time to actually draw a tile that fits into this square and frees up our monasteries. But yeah, so this move is just so optimistic. It could pay off, but most of the time it just doesn't. Helge is saying, I'm not sure how I'd feel if about being referred to master if you ever become a Carcassonne master. Just go with it. Humility is not always necessary. I remember, it's like when I was back at university, I had 2 professors who were also like friends to each other in real life. And they sometimes like to have fun by referring to each other not by the first name, but by the title of professor. So even like they are just in the canteen having food or whatever, in the meantime, we can see that the ambitious plan of Megot sort of kind of works, but not yet. So he will be freeing up at least one of these monasteries, but this one can be blocked. And they would just say to each other, you know, like, they would open the door for each other and just say, like, oh, after you, professor. No, you, professor. And, like, it's something that's can be quite fun. I certainly like to refer to Carcassonne Masters by the title of Master once in a while. Hi, Ian Middleton. Glovier was suggesting that green could meeple this triple city. Not a bad idea, but just taking care of this road was simply more important. Not allowing Megot easy 3 points. Yeah, I'm a bit confused about Star's moves over here. So first of all, he didn't use this tile for blocking, but then he decided to use an inferior tile for blocking a bit later. Yeah, and just ends up being, I guess, too little too late. So now he sort of goes with the idea of dropping a farmer and making a blocking move. Megot gets not a defense tile, but a tile that can at the very least clean off a city cap. And what matters is that he got a meeple back from one monastery. That is just enough. Even if this square gets blocked, I still prefer red in this position. Just because red has so many ways to develop his position. And the position looks also quite closed, so there are not going to be any big fields in all likelihood. Mr. Star can, of course, go here, try to further restrict this square, which is exactly what he does. But Mr. Megot now gets a tile that could be used as a defense. It's a question whether he should use it, just going over here, meepling the city cap and restricting the blocking square, thus making this square a bit safer. With a couple of giraffe next tiles gone out, maybe that's the move to play, but I really hate to be dropping city caps in my opponent's field. So probably if I'm red, I might just let it go. And also if you go over here, that indirect defense does not necessarily work immediately, because there's still 4 cow tiles that go over here to block the square. So yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure what's the correct move over here. Actually, you know what you might do? Yeah, he decides to go for the indirect defense. Certainly can't blame him for that. But you see what the problem with this move is? That SecretStar now not only gets a blocking move, but he also gets 7 points extra for his farmer. And that's why I'm just not a fan of defense moves like this. Especially if you can win with a game without necessarily completing your features. So now I'm not sure whose position I prefer, because this farmer suddenly looks very good. SecretStar just got an 8-point city out of nowhere, and it looks like the Chinese player is turning this around. Megot with a scoring tile certainly needs to take any point he can get. Only -1 on the scoreboard. Still plenty of chances for both sides. Mr. Star with a great tile can be used in a variety of places. So I'm thinking maybe we can go here, take a 4-point road, try to finish a road, and also play against the city. This is also another option, trying to block the square whilst also continuing our own road. Maybe I would have preferred to first of all take care of the city cap, just because red is threatening to to get a city cap, finish a 4-point city, and drop a farmer over here. That's just way too efficient. We don't want to allow them to do stuff like this. And then instead of this move, maybe we can make something similar, but we just wait until we get a cow tile. I can go over here, so that we immediately get our road meeple back, and we make this restricting move anyway in just a bit of a different fashion. But still, this plan looks solid enough. We just need to get any road end tile, or any road tile for that matter, to add 1 point to our road over here and create a complete blocking square against this meeple. So Mr. Megot gets into a field fight, which seems to be a bit premature. He's going to find himself in a severe meeple disadvantage, but it ends up working in the short term. All he needs to do is go over here and drop a farmer. Then we will be tied 2-2 on the field as Mr. Star trying to invade over here. And then red can invade over here. The one disadvantage, though, is the fact that this move opens up another invasion platform. So typically, especially when you're down on meeples, you really don't want to be using city tiles for invasion, because city tiles give re-invasion platforms for your opponent. Like imagine something like a triple city going over here, easy farmer, then connect with the curve. So when you're invading a field, you really need to take care of what you're giving back to your opponent. Yeah, so red invades the field successfully, but loses this meeple over here. But at least green will also be losing a meeple, because red can now go over here and block the square, or severely restrict it at the very least. There's only one starting tile that fits there, and even if the starting tile is drawn, the completion of this road is not guaranteed. As red, I would definitely prioritize the block here, because there's still 3 tiles that go here that give green a meeple back immediately, and a chance to even meeple this new city for insurance against this monastery. This monastery in the meantime has been, yeah, told ya, prioritization. Okay, now this match looks like all but over. This move is just too high scoring for green. 5 points for a road and a new meeple on a ruin, which is also controlling red's monastery. It's just almost devastating. So red will be playing with 1 meeple for pretty much the rest of the game, but there's still some chances. The tile that we need to draw is something like a Dorito or a cow tile. So if we place a tile over here, we can block this square and keep this green meeple stranded with 6 points, thus having ourselves a majority on a 12-point field. Then, if green invades maybe from here, then we can maybe try and place a tile over here and block the invasion square and leave green stranded with 0 points. So there are still some plans. And I guess when invading over here, red was thinking about something like this, but it won't work, as Mr. Star not only gets an invasion tile, but also 4 points for a road to go with it, and with that, I believe it's going to be all she wrote. Yeah, I hoped for a bit more of a less one-sided duel to commentate. Well, it wasn't actually one-sided because red started with the advantage here, but it seems that green managed to outfox red a little bit. So what do you do if you're red? Well, first of all, you hope to get a lot of good tiles. You hope to get a tile that fits into the square, that gives you a monastery meeple back so that you have more meeples to play with. This field at the top is not lost, it's tied. But there could be some potential invasions, and Mr. Star takes 4 points for road, certainly a 4 points that the Australian would love to have had, and leaves a city cap over here. Yeah, Mr. Megot really doesn't have a lot of options. I'm thinking maybe just going over here and trying to gamble that we draw a city cap tile before our opponent does. An alternative is to go here and pre-build a 5-point road, or even meeple the 5-point road if we're feeling crazy. Okay, I guess that's a bit too extravagant, but going over here gives us a chance to pick up 4 points for the city, 5 points for the road, and then do something later. But instead, Megot decides to simply block the point scoring opportunity for SecretStar, but it gives back another scoring opportunity with this Dorito. Green now, of course, will be more than happy to go over here, start a new city, and threaten this city really, really hard. By the way, had red chosen one move, my move, red would have already had a 5-point road over here and a meeple to play with. Now instead, red needs to do not that. Well, that's interesting. So red chooses to try and invade that city, which I can understand. I would have done it a little bit differently. I would have actually tried to block that city instead, even though it would not have worked and it would have lost the game immediately on the spot. It feels like something that you have to try because you need to draw this tile anyway. Now SecretStar draws the last tile that fits into the square, which means that red will not be getting a meeple back anytime soon. Or ever, actually. There's still some Doritos that fit into that square. And there's not that much that SecretStar can do about this, so maybe if we're red, we can get a Dorito and then try to invade the field at some point. It is in fact the Australian player who, no, the Chinese player rather, who tries to invade the field, and maybe this is our chance. Maybe we can just go over here and try to block that square. We're running short on monasteries, and there are no road monasteries available. So if we go over here and restrict the square towards a monastery, and then we get a curve and restrict the square towards a road monastery, then maybe something could work. Megot chooses a different route for blocking, trying to restrict it to its city tile first. This also could work. Mr. Star gets an indirect defense, and now even he gets the world. So what do you do here with Mr. Star? You take your pick. You can either take 4 points for the city and then just connect to the field and be happy about this, or you can complete this city and drop a farmer over here to try and overfarm and also get yourself this extra city. The second move seems more appealing. Probably both moves win 100% of the time with the best play for both players. I guess what I'm thinking, if we just play this move over here, then it makes sure that we're at least not losing the field. Because we're having ourselves a 3 versus 2 majority, and even if red successfully completes this connection and gets a meeple back and drops a farmer and invades the field and then fends off all 3 potential farmers from SecretStar, even in that case, red will be only equalizing the field, and green will be probably winning due to his scoreboard lead. These 2 monasteries for 16 points look great, but they're not enough to compensate. So let's see which approach the Chinese player chooses. Of course, goes for the more flashy one. I can empathize with that. No, not only win the game, but also inflict some emotional damage. But maybe now, again, there's really not that much that Megot can do, but maybe there's something. So here's what we can do. We can hope to fend off this farmer and fend off this farmer, either by blocking both of these squares or simply drawing all of the tiles that fit into these squares. And then we can get some quick point tiles and score points. And then on our last move, I said on our last move, not now, Megot. Not with 17 tiles remaining. That is just an act of desperation. Then we can go there and drop a farmer. Like, you really have to be patient with this sort of stuff. The idea is lovely, but when you're so far behind, you need to hope for the best possible outcome. And the best possible outcome is we first of all draw a crossroad tile here and a Dorito tile here to score 6 road points. Then we draw another crossroad tile here to score 2 points. Then we block everything over here. And on our last move of with 3 tiles remaining, then we drop a farmer here to connect. And so the SecretStar gets Monastery anyway to get a majority on the field. Megot will now be able to equalize this field, but SecretStar is drawing yet another one to reinvade. Or even if this invasion is not successful, he'll be having himself a 6-point farmer at the top, which is now being blocked quite wisely by Mr. Megot. But Mr. Megot is also being blocked. Oh, that's so unfortunate, actually. I believe that there is only one tile that fits into this square. That's a vanilla city cap tile. So I guess as the Australian player, you just hope to draw it. I mean, you're not going to win the game, but at the very least, you're going to just get yourself a decent score. Mr. Star about to get himself 3 points for a road. So maybe not something that I would have preferred to give up as Megot. Oh no, instead he just goes for a different scoring route, taking 2 points for a road and then hoping to meeple that city later. Not sure if that's going to work. Let's see if Mr. Megot decides to make moves that reduce the score difference. And he does not. He simply discards this tile. Of course, it looks like a blocking move, but it doesn't matter because this square was already blocked. This gives back a potential 4-point road with one of the 2 remaining crossroads. Mr. Star here with the dagger tile. Not much to do, maybe just going over here, trying to block this square. I probably wouldn't even bother. I think the best move is just to go here, actually, and pre-build an 8-point city, hoping to meeple it later. But the very, very best move is to just make a move and make sure that you don't lose on time. Sometimes you can get carried away trying to optimize things where you don't really need it. So far, I don't think anybody in this championship has lost on time. There have been players who lost on time in the qualification cycle, and that actually cost the tournament for the Estonian player with the screen name Vashad. And indeed, the pre-building move is what occurs. Mr. Megot with a crossroads, which he can't use. He can't even block this square, so he just decides to drop it somewhere. Curvy tile from Mr. Star. Probably going to go here and create a blocking platform again. This little guy. Or maybe pre-build a longer road for himself. Take your pick. As long as you make a move within the allotted time. Hi, V Mappa. He does indeed go for the block, and Mr. Megot can't even defend. That's so unfortunate. But Mr. Star cannot block. Probably can go over here to continue his city, or maybe over here, just meepling the ruin. Depends a lot on the remaining tiles. Also note that the invasion of the green farmer has now been blocked. Not that it was important, because there is only one tile that fits here anyway. This is the vanilla city cap that red needed. So if red were to invade the field and draw the vanilla city cap, it would block off this invasion automatically. No, I'm not sure what that move is about, because it protects that square. I mean, did I miscount something? No, I don't think I did. There is a vanilla city cap remaining. Yeah, very weird move here from Mr. Star. But it won't matter that much, as 20 points on the scoreboard and a meeple extra should do it, even with the fields being equalized. Green also has extra field points on top. 3 points for this farmer, 6 points for this farmer. So again, the most important thing is not to lose on time. So how about we just take this 4-point road and be done with it. He takes a 6-point field. This is obviously better. Straight road for Mr. Megot. We'll discard it somewhere. And Mr. Star here gets a city cap. So the Australian doesn't even get to connect to this field. Yeah, very interesting. Well, the ending maybe wasn't that interesting because the game was sort of decided by the middle, but interesting how we witnessed multiple comebacks. So red now started really strong, but the Chinese player successfully blocked his meeples, and not only that, he makes sure to maximize the impact of these blocked meeples. So the Australian player was actually doing fine despite the blocked meeples, but then he found himself in a losing field fight. And even if he were not to lose this field fight, it's just the fact that he spent so many meeples on that field made it sure that he didn't have meeples to score elsewhere. So yeah, there are ways how positions with blocked meeples can be beneficial for the side with the blocked meeples, but open positions with big fields with loads of green squares and lots of meeples on the farm are just not these types of position. So we congratulate SecretStar and all our Chinese fans of taking their first victory in the Champions League. Consolations to all Australians who may be watching, but don't be too sad because the difference in games won also matters, not just the match outcome, but the match score. So Megot lost 2-0 instead of 2-1. And this could be important later for the tiebreakers if we have a situation in the group where the same number of players, where multiple players get the same number of wins in matches, then the next thing that we'll be looking at is the number of won games. And in a tied group like this, it could very likely be the case. So a bit unfortunate loss from Megot because SecretStar was one of the experts, but they're still not a master. So this was probably a match that they wanted to win, but likewise also that was a key match for SecretStar as well, because they still have to face Siegfried, like they still have to face Lord Jeriklov, they still have to face Lord Trooper, so they still have to face, I'm not sure if Lord Trooper is a master, but they were rated really high at some point, so they still have to face off multiple masters. So that's why the players, the matches against experts, these are the ones that you really want to be winning. So yeah, uphill climb for the Australian player and a good start for the Chinese. And finally, before we wrap up, just wanted to show you the matches that are happening later today. There's actually Kisimoga against Spyro in just 20 minutes. I can't stream any of that, sadly, but what I can do is that I'm going to stream the match which is happening right now at midnight. I mean, not right now, but it will be happening at midnight UTC, and I'm streaming that. Rabbit Rain versus Manarori. And then probably this match and a bunch of Friday, Saturday, Sunday matches as well. So be sure to join me at midnight UTC, unless you're in Europe, in which case I expect you to be sleeping, but East Asia, South America, most welcome. Make sure to meeple the like button for the algorithm before you leave, and in case you're here for the first time and want to see more competitive Carcassonne content like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel and click the bell notification icon to get notifications. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.